From athletes to authors, entertainers to innovators, we connect with those who help shape our culture. Join us in revealing stories of their lives and backgrounds, their triumphs and tragedies that molded them into who they are today. Authentically off-script and personally illuminating, this is Audibles with Jason Scarborough. This week on Audibles, Richard Duease.
So your story starts February 18th, 1952, Indianola, Mississippi.
Indianola, Mississippi.
How would you describe growing up there in Indianola?
I couldn't, I did an article one time a few years ago, and my thoughts were, and they asked me that, I couldn't have thought of a better place to grow up at that point in life than Indianola, Mississippi. The freedom I had a go-kart when I was about 12 years old, and I'd zip all over town. And during the summer, I'd get on my go-kart with my baseball glove, my bat, my tennis racket, and my ping pong paddle, and I'd go to the teen club on my go-kart. I'd stay there all day. We'd play ping pong, we'd play kickball, we'd play tennis. Then I'd go to Little League baseball practice and come home about 7:30, 8 at night. Best life I could have known.
Sounds like a pretty good childhood.
It was great.
How would you describe your family growing up?
Tight. I was the youngest of three. My sister is 16 years older than me. She's still living. She's 89 years old now. My brother's 81 and I'm 73. So, we had, my dad had a retail store in Belzona, and my mother had a retail store in Indianola, and so we lived in Indianola all my life, and like I said, it's just at that point, Indianola High School was a great place to be. The old Delta Valley Conference, played all the sports, and just lived the American dream.
So you talk about all the interests you had as a kid and all the things you did, all the hobbies. Mm-hmm. Sports was a big part of your life. But what other interests? Was there anything else that interested you when you were growing up?
It really, at that point, it wasn't much more. With my dad being a lot older than most dads at my age, my brother, who was 8 years older than me, he was the guy that kind of guided me and pushed me in sports. And I can still remember in high school, we had a bunch of buddies and we were riding around, and I bent over to change the radio station, and my car swerved a little bit, and the policeman stopped me. Oh. And he walked up to the car and he said, "Boy, you been drinking?" I said, "No, sir, I play football." And I meant every bit of it. I mean, because that never entered my mind, So, but sports was my life back then, and it has been a long time.
So sports, big part of your childhood and upbringing, big part of your life, as you just said. Can you remember when basketball started becoming important to you? Well,
basketball, I mean, it was just a season, for me playing. I mean, during football season, I love football. Basketball, I love basketball. Baseball, tennis, and track. I didn't like track, but I ran track because I knew it would help me. When I first got out, I was coaching football, basketball, and track. And I went to Manchester my first year in '75, and really loved Yazoo City, but I was offensive coordinator in football and for 3 years, and then I was called to Clarksdale Lee and to be the offensive coordinator in football, but only girls basketball and then track. And so I did that, and I did that for 4 years, but I never was the head football coach. In basketball, I never was an assistant basketball coach. I was always, from 22 years old on, I was the head coach. So as I did that, those 7 years before I came to MRA, that's where my loyalty was going more and more, and I've always loved basketball, but my extra study, my film work really should have been more on football, but it was on basketball. So I think that's when I became when I was the head coach and always making those decisions, it just meant more.
You go to high school in Indianola. I want to talk about your athletic career. Tennis, basketball, and football. You played all of these sports at Mississippi Delta Community College between '71 and '72. A 3-sport athlete. How common was that back then?
Well, in JUCO it was uncommon, but in high school I played 5 sports, and I played baseball and ran track, basketball, tennis, and football. I went to Mississippi Delta to play quarterback, but I also played basketball and tennis, and so it was fun. It was just like high school, except a little tougher competition. Not tennis, but football and basketball tougher, and so I had a great time. I did that for a year and a half and tore my knee up, broke my arm in football, and so I said, I think I'm gonna go to Mississippi State, become an SAE and have fun. So that's what I did.
You did go to Mississippi State, and I love this story. You're there from 72 to 75. You were pursuing a business degree initially, decided to shift your studies to earn a bachelor's degree in physical education. I heard you tell the story. You were in an economics class or something of that sort, and you were like, this is not fun. No. I don't want to do this. And you went down the hall to your advisor and said, I want to switch. Yeah. Do I have the story right?
You got it. It was second semester, and first day of second semester, and I lacked 6 hours for my major in business. And so, usually that first day in the spring, it was pretty, and back then at State, a lot of buildings it was not air conditioned. You had windows open, and, and everybody's walking around. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he starts in the book, and, I sat there for about 10 minutes, and I said, this is not what I want to do. This is not fun for me. Got up, walked out. But fortunately for me, every elective that I took was a PE elective. So I didn't have much longer to get my PE degree.
How'd that go over with Mom and Dad?
Not very well. Not very well. I think what I told them was that, look, let me just do it 1 year and get it out of my system. And that was 50 years ago. So.
And you still hadn't got it out of your system?
Still haven't.
Still haven't?
No.
Well, so it was at Mississippi State, if I remember reading everything correctly. You correct me if I'm wrong. That's kind of when the coaching bug, really, that fever, that fire, was it at Mississippi State when this fire started to burn, or before that? I think
it really got hotter at Mississippi State, let me say that. But I've always wanted to be a part of sports somehow. If I couldn't play it, I wanted to be able to still be a part of it, and I just liked what it did for kids. I liked how team sports makes men out of boys, women out of girls. I like that because they have to depend on someone else, not just on themselves, to be successful. And that philosophy kind of drove me to coaching.
Talk about your coaching career. You talked about Manchester and Yazoo City. We talked about that a minute ago. Coaching both boys and girls basketball from 75 to 78. That had to be a great experience for you. When you look back at that now, what lessons did you learn in those first couple of years?
Well, what I've told, I was very fortunate that first year we had some nice seniors on the boys team. The girls team was very young, but I told them, I said, I wish I knew then what I know now about coaching, because I didn't do them justice. I was tough on them. I was doing all that stuff, but as far as just strategy and middle of game changes, I was not great. I worked hard. I made them play hard, and we were able to win, not because of me, but in spite of me. So. But as the years went on, I've been to a lot of clinics. I've been to a lot of camps. I've talked to a lot of coaches, and it's just they've all helped me over the years.
Who would you say early on that you kind of modeled your coaching philosophy after? What was there one person that you kind of not mimicked, but kind of modeled your coaching philosophy after?
Oh yeah, Bobby Knight.
Bobby Knight.
Bobby Knight. I went up to Indiana. I guess the year after they won the national championship, when Keith Smart hit the winning shot. Keith Smart was a senior that year. I stayed a week up there. Bob Boyd, who was at Mississippi State, he and Bobby Knight were best friends. And so Coach Boyd called Bobby Knight, and I went up and played golf with him and just hung out with him. And, and really learned a lot from him, just talking to him, but really liked how he coached.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
It has often been said that home is where the heart is. It's where hard-working and dedicated people form the fabric of a thriving community. At Covington County Hospital, it's our priority to help keep our community safe, healthy, and moving. With our primary care clinics and services, we are working to keep you healthy. Because home is where the heart is. Home is where family matters. Covington County Hospital, where your health care matters.
At Atmos Energy, we believe affordable, reliable, and efficient natural gas is essential to achieving a low-carbon energy future. We're committed to helping protect the environment by providing smart choice solutions to help customers reduce energy use and lower their carbon footprint. Get a rebate up to $600 off qualifying high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy, your natural gas company.
Our farm's amber waves of grain become your tasty creations in the kitchen. From a bushel of wheat comes the flour you need to enjoy the breads, cakes, cereals, and pastas we all love so much. And even if you aren't a world-renowned chef, wheat grown in Mississippi is used in many of the foods you buy on the grocery store shelves. Wheat, just one of the many commodities a Mississippi farmer grows for you. The Farm Families of Mississippi.
Family owned and operated since 1986, Lakeside Molding has become the trusted source of architectural products throughout the South. They offer fine interior architectural moldings, custom millwork, and cabinet doors designed and handcrafted in Flowwood. Their showroom on Lakeland Drive is stocked with today's most sought-after interior details, including corbels, post, fireplace mantles, bath vanities, mirrors, and much more. Tim Shoemaker and his staff work closely to meet client needs for new construction, restoration, and remodeling projects. Lakeside Molding, where details make the difference.
You mentioned Clarksdale Lee a moment ago. You were there from 1978 to 1982. You coached girls basketball and football. You mentioned just a moment ago your first coaching job. You know, there were some things you're talking about being hard on the kids and things like that. How did you adjust going into that second time around coaching high school basketball and football? What lessons did you learn in that trip?
Well, I mean, especially in basketball, I was more experienced. I was ready, and we had those 4 years I was there, we had great teams. Mm-hmm. We played hard, and I think we averaged about 30 wins a year for those 4 years in girls, and won the state, beat Prep 1 year in the state, and lost to them in the finals of the overall that next week on a last-second shot. And Jason, it's those losses that you remember. You don't remember a lot of the wins, but it's those losses like that you remember that haunt you for the rest of your life. So, but I was more prepared, and I was ready, but Clarksdale Lee prepared me for MRA, and we've been very blessed since then.
So you were talking about interviewing for MRA. We're here at Madison-Ridgeland Academy, gorgeous campus. What did you know about MRA before you started interviewing for the job?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. But what I did know, Ronnie Aldi, my friend, you remember Ronnie, they coached at Grenada Kirk and coached at Florida under one of his former players, and then at Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. He called me one day, and because he knew I was looking to get back to coaching boys and girls. And he said, look, MRA is open. It was a class lower at that time than Clarksdale Lee was. He said, I'm not interested in the job, but they asked me, and I gave them your name, and I said, good. So Don Bevelak was the headmaster at that time, and I came down to MRA and looked at it, and it was just a little old country school back then in 1982, and I walked in the gym, and the gym just had, Had a side, two sides, and then two walls on each end. Probably would seat about 500 people, maybe at the most. And I walked out on the floor, and the floor was dark brown with a little thin red line around it, and they had a Patriot in the middle of the floor, and somebody had taken a wad of chew in the back, and it was right on the Patriot's head. So that was my introduction to MRA at that time. So, but we had the Lord led me here. There's no doubt. And, you know, because I don't know if there would have been another reason except I had an opportunity to not coach football and just coach boys and girls basketball and track. And that's what I was looking for. And moving to Jackson, kind of, you know, I was single, you know, and so that made a difference too. And so, but there's no doubt that the Lord put me here.
Even with knowing that it was divine intervention that led you here, I mean, you go back to 1982 when you started, and you just told the story about the chewing tobacco on the floor.
Yeah.
Could you have ever envisioned, when you look back at that first season here in Madison County, that it was going to turn into this longevity and everything that's come after it? Could you, when you look back at that first season now, I mean, there's no way that you could have envisioned, or was there, that it was going to turn into what it has?
No, I mean, at that point, you know, we were running probably 35, 40 students in a grade. You know, now we're running 120. You know, it's, we were just a small school with not a lot of money. And so I remember the first time I wanted to get the gym floor redone. Of course, you know, after seeing that first glimpse, you know, that was going. I was kind of like Donald Trump. There's some things I've got to get done, but that was one of them. And but you know, they said, well, we just don't have the money. I said, well, they tell me now that if we do it one time, we won't have to do it again. That's what they say. But so what we did is we sanded it completely down and got it back to the wood. Put the sealer back on, repainted it, and it turned out to be great. But you know, every year we still had to, you know, sand it down a little bit and put it back on. But we were able to get it done that way. But you know, I was really blessed, Jason. In that first year, I had some really nice players, and I was ready for those guys. You know, and they had never. I think the year before they were 5-20. And the girls had a great team the year before, but they all graduated. So we had a bunch of sophomores and juniors on the girls, and then the boys were senior heavy. And in that first year, we get beat in the state championship game by Magnolia, who ended up winning the overall championship. We beat them 2 times that year. They beat us 3. That was the first year that MRA had ever beaten Jackson Prep in a basketball game, and we beat them over at in their tournament, and so we ended up winning 28 games that first year, and got beat in the semifinals by Ronnie Aldi and Grenada Kirk. We had a 9-point lead going into the 4th and got beaten overtime, and but just a great year. And from that point, those guys kind of set the tone, and we've been able to do that every year since then.
You know, hearing you talk about it when you walked in before we started the interview, and Robbie asked you, you know, how long have you been coaching? You know, I got it here, 50 years, Coach.
50 years.
50 years. You know, to read it and then to hear you say it, and 43 here at MRA, if I have that correct. What is it that keeps the fire still burning even today?
It's the players.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's the players, and it's like I tell them now, and of course, this was not always my philosophy, but the older I've gotten, the more I've thought about things. And to be honest, Jason, I mean, winning and losing is important, but it's not the most important. To me, if we go out and play as hard as we can possibly play, and they can come back and look in the mirror and they look into themselves and say, there's nothing else I could have done to help this team, and we lose, I'm fine. It's just when we don't put out the effort and we lose, that's when I lose it. But winning and losing is important, but it's not the most important thing. The effort is the most important thing, because not only will it help them this year, it's going to help them when it gets tough in life. Mm-hmm. And that's my job, is to try to draw them closer to the Lord and make them be able to handle everyday activities in life.
I've heard you say that several times in other places over your career. You've said that to me personally, off camera, off mic. You're preparing them for life, to give maximum effort in life. That's your coaching philosophy, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Leading into that, it's no surprise that you've won 41 MAIS state championships, 15 overall championships at MRA. When I read that, I know you've won a lot, but even knowing you as a friend, I'm reading that number staggering. What do you think the key is to maintaining that level, or having been able to maintain that level of success all these years?
Well, I've had great assistant coaches through the years. Had a bunch that have gone on to be head coaches and are doing great now. Have great players, and you know as well as anybody that the Jimmys and the Joes sure do help. And but I think just the desire to be successful and achieve, and to push every day in practice. Practice isn't easy, and so it's not for everyone. And we're kind of like the Marines. MRA basketball is not for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's for the few and the brave, and for us, it's worked out.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
The fabric of any community is its people. It's the commitment to hard work and to be our best. It's where you know your neighbor by name. It's where family is important. At Covington County Hospital, we are your family and friends. That's why your healthcare is important to us. From emergency room visits to primary care to behavioral health, we want to make sure that healthcare is available when you need it. Covington County Hospital, where your healthcare matters.
Up before the dawn and home long after the sun sets. We pass this farm work ethic on to our children, too. They have their chores just like yours, but we also raise animals. Taking care of these animals helps them understand just how important what we do on this farm is for their future and Mississippi's.
Another way Mississippi farmers grow what's important to your life, the farm families of Mississippi.
It all starts with an idea, but how do you make it a reality? At Common House Productions, we specialize in creative and tailored video content. Whether it's crafting a story from the beginning or simply bringing your idea to life, we can help you bridge that gap and produce video content that shines. Common House Productions.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas from Atmos Energy. It's efficient and reliable energy that's essential for today and generations to come. You can count on affordable natural gas to help you save money and keep you comfortable while fueling your dream home. So make the smart choice and talk to a builder today about including natural gas. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy, your natural gas company.
Do you remember your first championship?
I do.
Tell me about that moment.
We were playing Jackson Prep at Jackson Prep in the overall finals. They had beaten us both times we played. They had Whit Hughes. You remember they played at Mississippi State. Great player. David Rula, great player, and just a good complement of a great team. We had a point guard named Rich Richardson, who was a good athlete for us. Dustin Blunt, Sonny Ward, Ross Dorr came off the bench. We just had a nice team, but we weren't able to beat them in regular season. But that night we did. And in fact, Whit had tweaked his ankle, I guess, a week or two before, but he was really good that night. And they had cut it to maybe 2, and we called timeout, and we ran a home run play, and Rich Richardson hit Dustin Blunt on a fly route, and we laid it up to go up 4 to win the game. And that was our first overall boys championship.
And against Jackson Prep, that had to make it a little sweeter.
It was wonderful.
Is there
great.
one outside of the first one that maybe was, of course, not maybe as sweet as the first one, but is there one that stands out where you go, okay, that one, I mean, all of them are sweet. All the rings are sweet. But is there one that maybe stands out where you're like, okay, that one was pretty special?
Well, let's talk about the Josh Hubbard. Sophomore year at Hartfield. That's when the COVID had come through, and we were playing the overall tournament against Greenville St. Joe. They had that's the year they brought in 30 players in football, and they went, they were ranked in the top 25 teams in the country in football, and they were number 1 in basketball. They had, I think they ended up with 3 D1 signees in that group. And so we come out, and first half we're up 5, and Hubbard had 27 at the half, and we're only up 5. So I told my coach, I said, man, I don't feel good about this. He's got 27 and we're up 5. And we go along, and they take the lead. They had a couple 6, 7 guys inside that were really good, and so it comes down. We have the ball, and we're down 2, and we shoot and miss. They rebound, and we foul them. It's I think it's maybe 2 seconds left, 3 seconds left in the game, and we're down 2, and we just fouled them, and they're going to shoot free throws, 2 free throws. Well, their bench thought the game was over, and they have a boy that runs out on the floor and slides across the floor. Technical foul.
Oh.
So we foul their best shooter. He misses both free throws. Then we go down, we're actually down, we were down 2. And then, so we come down, Hubbard shoots, he makes 1 and misses 1. So we're down with 2 seconds left. And we run a play, and at the end I said, Davis Dalton, who's playing wide receiver at Southern Miss now, I said, if we miss, you've got to get it off quick. And we throw it to, of course, they had got 2 or 3 on Hub, running, and so we throw it to Harrison Alexander, who's playing at Mississippi State now too, and he shoots it short. Davis Dalton catches it and lays it in. We were down 2. Catches it and lays it in at the buzzer, and we go into overtime, and we beat them in overtime.
It's like a movie.
Look, it couldn't have been made up any more than that right there.
You just gave Netflix a script, whether you realize it or not.
It was unbelievable. Most unbelievable game I've ever watched.
I'm gonna need to see some footage of that.
No, it was special.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get with Ross and get some footage on that. So in February of 2020, this was special. You talk about special championships. You became the winningest high school basketball coach in Mississippi. 1,698th win. 1698 is the number. You broke the record of all-time wins. For you, I know where your focus is, but even for you, that had to be a special moment to break that record.
Well, I really didn't know what my record was. I'll be honest. I was just going from game to game, and then my assistant back then, who used to work at the newspaper, he kind of started keeping up with the records and got all the, from everybody, and got it correct. And it was a special time. That's a lot of players that have contributed to that.
And as this past year, you amassed 1,851 career wins, according to Max Preps. You're the second winningest active coach in the country, and you're still the all-time leader in boys wins and in total wins. Do you still approach the game pretty much the same way you always have, even after all the wins, all the championships, all the players? We talked about Josh Hubbard and Davis Staulton, so many others you've referenced. Do you still pretty much approach the game the same way?
Yeah, I do. They say I've gotten a lot more lenient. Maybe I need to get back to the old ways. But I do think that working hard, taking care of details, whether it's in basketball, in math, or in life, you handle the small things, the big things come easy. And that's what we try to do, is don't let the small things go by without correcting. And also, when they do it good, make sure they understand that they did it good too. And I think that's just as important. You
were recently inducted into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame and Museum. What did that honor mean to you personally?
Now, that's something that I never really thought about. I just, they asked me, what do you think about this? And I said, well, you remember the movie with Juna, when he was playing Bobby Jones in the U.S. Open? I think, trying to think the name of the movie, but I was Randolph Jr. He was just a local boy, and I'm sitting there by Eli Manning and Stringfellow and Jimmy Smith, and I'm just a guy that was very fortunate to have a great place to work and win games, and so I felt like Randolph Jr. amongst Bobby Jones and that group. So that's kind of how I felt about it.
You've been MAIS Coach of the Year 30 different times. Just keep going with the honors here. You developed countless student athletes. What do you hope your former players have to say about their time playing for you here?
Well, I hope they come back and say, and I have had a lot to do that, but to say thank you and how much it meant to them, and because they meant a lot to me. And those memories I hope to have even when I get dementia or whatever happens to me later in life, but I hope I always have those.
You spoke about the things you try to instill in your players, give maximum effort. What are some of the other things that you try to instill in your players?
Well, I think they all have got to take leadership roles. I think they need to be great leaders, not just on the court, but in class. They need to be those guys that teachers can count on, and sometimes I have slip-ups on those, but that's my job to try to push them in that direction, and so just being a leader, being a good, strong Christian young man, and taking that role in FCA here, and whatever else they need to do to help our school.
After all these years, what is it that still excites you about game prep and planning and coaching, having a new team, preparing these players? What is it that excites you the most after all these years?
Winning. Look, it's been this year was the first year that we haven't been in either the semifinals or finals in the state tournament in 43 years. This is the first time. And so this was a different experience for me. We were 17-13 this year. We lost 7 games by 5 points or less. Oof. And led in a lot of those games late. So, my job now is and we have 4 starters back, and we have a couple of good ones that are coming off the bench, and our 9th grade class was conference champions this year. So we have some nice young players coming up. I've got to get more people involved in the game that are ready to play in this league. Jason, the thing about this league is it's turned into, I think, as tough a league as any league in the state, public or private. I mean, you look at the 6 teams, every one of them are really, really good. You look at our record against the public schools, and then you look at our record in our conferences. We're much better against the public schools, and we only play the larger schools. The smaller schools really won't play, but so it's just a matter of coming back and trying to win another championship right now.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
Great healthcare shouldn't be out of reach. It should be near when things get tough, available at a moment's notice. Great healthcare should have heart. It should be advanced and available to all. At Covington County Hospital, great healthcare isn't out of reach. Great healthcare is just around the corner, serving you and your family for over 70 years. Covington County Hospital, where your healthcare matters.
Family owned and operated since 1986, Lakeside Molding has become the trusted source of architectural products throughout the South. They offer fine interior architectural moldings, custom millwork, and cabinet doors designed and handcrafted in Flowwood. Their showroom on Lakeland Drive is stocked with today's most sought-after interior details, including corbels, post, fireplace mantles, bath vanities, mirrors, and much more. Tim Shoemaker and his staff work closely to meet client needs for new construction, restoration, and remodeling projects. Lakeside Molding, where details make the difference.
Between the blue sky and green grass, there's a Mississippi cattleman making sure the food you need is on your local grocery store shelves. Whether it's a big juicy steak or hamburgers for your backyard cookout, our food starts right here. Because for these cattlemen, it's not just a job, it's caring for the animals that make up our nation's food supply. Just one of the many commodities a Mississippi farmer grows for you, the farm families of Mississippi.
At Atmos Energy, we believe affordable, reliable, and efficient natural gas is essential to achieving a low-carbon energy future. We're committed to helping protect the environment by providing smart choice solutions to help customers reduce energy use and lower their carbon footprint. Get a rebate up to $600 off qualifying high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy, your natural gas company.
You talk about those matchups against the teams in your own division and against the public schools. You've had a lot of blockbuster matchups.
Ooh.
When you look back at some of the matchups with your counterpart on the other side of the court, when you look back at some of those memories, do you have a story or memory that stands out from another coach you were going up against?
Well, it's just we've been to Reno once, twice maybe. We've been to San Diego 3 or 4 times. We've been to LA 3 or 4 times. We've been down to Miami and Fort Lauderdale. One story in Fort Lauderdale, we were playing a prep school we won our first game. We're playing a prep school in the semifinals, and Patrick Ewing Jr. is on that team, and they come out and they're really good out of Washington D.C. and they were 6'9", had a 6'7", 5'10" point guard that was really good, and then a 6'4" shooting guard. And our tallest guy was 6'1", a guy named Jim Owen, who was a good athlete, but he was 6'1". And had a guy named Jordan Russell, who's a political analyst now in the country and has done well. He's 6 foot, and he's guarding Patrick Ewing Jr. And so we're down maybe 3 at the half. We're either tied up or down 2 late in the game. And so they're at the free throw line, and they're shooting. No, we're shooting free throws, and Patrick Ewing's here and Jordan Russell's here. And I didn't hear it, but this is what was told to me by the players and an official. He looks at Patrick Ewing Jr. and he says, "You know what your dad and my dad have in common? And Patrick Ewing looked at him. He said, "No, what?" He said, "Neither one of them have a ring."
Oh.
And so anyway, we ended up getting beat 6 in that game, but it was a great game, you know. And then when out in Reno, we played Bishop Gorman.
Oh yeah.
Out of Vegas. They were ranked 1 or 2 in the country. They ranked 1 or 2 in the country every year. Well, the 2 guard for them was DeMarco Murray.
Oh.
You remember DeMarco Murray?
Oh yeah.
Played running back for the Dallas Cowboys. He was pretty good. They beat us about 5. I mean, we just played well. You know, so, you know, there are a lot of games like that. We played Luke Babbitt out there, who was a #1 draft pick in the NBA. He was 6'9". We beat them after they had beaten Modesto, California, who was ranked in the top 20. Luke was a 6'10" sophomore then. We held him under his average now. He got 28 against us, but his average was 32. But we beat him, and that was a great win. One of the best wins we've ever had there.
I love that story.
Yeah.
What do my dad and your dad have in common? Neither have a ring. That's pretty ambitious to make that statement, right?
Yeah, but you got to know Jordan Russell.
I love that story. So have you thought about, I mean, there's going to come a day where you say, you know what, that it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for me to go play golf and go fishing and, you know, spend time with the family. Have you thought about life after basketball and when that time comes to hang the whistle up?
I have, and it's more and more so the older I get. And, you know, I have a grandchild now, 9 months old, and they live in Pensacola. So hopefully in the near future, at some point, that I say, okay, let's move, let's go down there and spend time there. And but you know, I rely on the Lord. He'll tell me. Right now, he hadn't told me.
Well, let's talk about that. I've heard you reference your faith in several other places, and you're outspoken about it, which, you know, we appreciate. So I'll ask it this way: what does faith mean to Richard Duease?
Salvation, eternal life, to sacrifice your son to die, that you may live. It doesn't get any better than that.
It's a pretty good way to put it. And I appreciate you being outspoken about it. You've never hid from it as long as I've known you. And speaking of how long I've known you, I have to tell this story. I appreciate your music. I appreciate your musical taste so much. You and I have known each other for a long time. And we were meeting years ago in your office here at MRA.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we were meeting about, but you took the meeting with me and you said, "Hang on, Jason, I got to run down the hall for a second." And the music, I hear music coming from somewhere. And it wasn't obviously on the sound system here at the school. And I'm like, what is that? I hear a little Creedence Clearwater. I hear a little, you know, all kinds of old school stuff. I'm like, man, this is good music, stuff my parents brought us up on. I get to looking around in your office and your iPhone is over there with a playlist, and I'm like, man, Coach Duease just earned a lot of points with me. Not that he needed to, but so your musical taste, I appreciate. So what is the last playlist? Give me your last playlist that you created. What's
well,
on it?
I don't really create a list. I'll say, okay, I'll say, Siri, put Van Morrison on, and then it'll give me all the Van Morrison stuff. Or put Toby Keith on if I'm feeling country that day, you know, and Nora Jones if I'm feeling Nora Jones, and so I just let it go, and really like it though. Music's wonderful.
I have a feeling you and I would really get along well with our playlist in a road trip together after I
probably
heard
would.
Yeah, I really dig it. So let's switch it up a little bit. You're so goal-oriented. You're intense on the court, but you know it's kind of like I said about Thomas Billups earlier, the coach over at Lanier for years.
I know Thomas.
Yeah, I mean he had this tough and gruff exterior on the court, but off the court he couldn't have been nicer. And I think that's the case. I wish people knew that about you, and maybe they do. So what do you do to just kind of unwind and relax when you're not coaching or prepping for a game or doing one of these?
Well, you know, my wife, we've been married 37 years now, and our daughter's she's just turned 36. And we've been married 38 years now. So
Wow.
She just turned 36, and you know, she has her own store here. She's a decorator, interior designer, and she designs her own fabric, wallpaper, has all that, a lot of antiques, you know, just a lifestyle store. So she's working hard every day, and so she doesn't cook as much as she used to. So we spend a lot of time enjoying the restaurants, you know, going to different spots and spending time that way together, and you know, and just, you know, because basketball season, especially for wives, are tough. It's tough, you know, and I know it is, and sometimes I lose focus on other things, and she's there, and God has put her there to remind me of my focus, and I appreciate that. So we just kind of hang out and go different places. We'll go down to, you know, spring break, we're gonna go down to Pensacola and spend time with my daughter and son-in-law and grandchild, and just have a good time.
I've seen in other places that the grandbaby might be a future shooting guard, maybe?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be a basketball. Look, it does not matter to me.
Doesn't matter to you.
He's healthy. He's look, he's 2.5 feet long now at 9 months. So he's in the 90th percentile. But look, he may not grow another inch, but it wouldn't matter. I mean, he is perfect. And for me and my wife, and it's just been a great blessing to us.
What do you want the grandkids to call you?
Papa D.
Papa D?
Papa D, and my wife's name is Flower.
I like it.
Flower.
I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
If you could sit down with 20-year-old Richard Duease, how would that conversation go?
If I could sit down with 20-year-old Richard Duease, I would probably slap him in the face first and get his mind right. But no, I would say, I want you to, this is something that if you really want to do it, it's worth it. I mean, you're not going to ever make a whole heck of a lot of money out of it, you know, but you're going to sure make a lot of memories. And, you know, and I could not think of a single thing I would do different now than I was at 20 or 22 when I started, you know. And, you know, my daughter was in the 3rd grade. I almost left. This was my first year here at MRA. So, I mean, I'd just gotten here, and I got a call from a Division I coach and wanted to talk to me about being an assistant. And in fact, it got to a point after a couple of weeks that he told me, he said, "Have you told the school you could be leaving?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Well, you need to do that." And anyway, he went another direction. And after that, I told my wife, I said, "Look, I'm putting everything in God's hand. I'm not going to try to pursue any other job unless he tells me." And that was 35 years ago.
Wow.
So, and this has been where he's wanted me, and I know that.
You've worn a lot of hats here, AD, of course, coaching girls and boys basketball. My final question for you, Coach. Let's get down the road here. When people Google Richard Duease or they hear a story about you, what do you want people to remember about your time here at MRA?
That I love the kids. I love the school. I love our town. And that I was a fair man. That's what I'd like for them to remember.
I've always known you as a fair man, and I want to, on camera, thank you for your friendship all these years. You've always been fair with me on anything, and I appreciate that. And a lifetime of achievements. You meant a lot to Mississippi, not just this area, but you meant a lot to Mississippi basketball, all the athletes, student athletes. I still hear stories about Coach Duease, no matter where I am. I'll hear a story about Coach Duease. So thank you for your impact on not just this area, but this state. And thanks for joining us for Audibles. I appreciate you taking the time to do it.
Jason, thank you for having me.
It was
It's
an
my
honor.
honor.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Let's see, 41 minutes, 42 minutes from there would be 11:18. Is that right? Am I doing the math right on that? 11:18, 11:19? Oh, yeah. So I'll watch that. All right. Thank you for doing this, man. It's good to see you. Yes, sir. All right, here we come.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week for another episode of Audibles with Jason Scarborough.